All right, good morning. As usual, we're going to start off with some Death Wish coffee. No, they are not a sponsor. That is just a free plug. So, let's talk a little sports. Let's talk about, let's get the major league stuff out of the way first. First things first, Cardinals. It looks like the game against the Bruins has been canceled because some of the players have gotten COVID. So that game will not be happening tonight. They did lose. Cardinals did lose last night. They lost by 3. They didn't even score. So Royals, really quickly, finally, I think that's the final game in this little series. Royals won 5-3 against Detroit. Actually got to catch a little bit of that game at the tail end. Royals played very well. I didn't get to see all of it, but happy to see that. So they won a couple of games out of that series, and yeah. So as it says in the description, we're going to talk a little bit of sports, but before I do, I do want to plug this. If you're, of course, in the Clinton School District, or you have kids, or you're just concerned, go to the school's Facebook page. I need to probably start putting that link into this description. Start doing that next time. Note to self. So anyway, Destry Brown, superintendent of schools in Clinton, is releasing these videos, and this particular one has a lot of really good information on it. How this works is we're recording the videos on Wednesday and releasing them on Thursday, and then anybody that has questions or concerns about the information given, they're encouraged to put their questions in the comments below. And then what Superintendent Destry Brown is doing is taking that information and those questions in the description or in the comments section and coming back and actually answering those. So the way it's set up is he starts off, he gives new information about what's coming up or any decisions is made, or in this case, explains some decisions that were made by the school board. And then he goes into the answering last week's questions. A lot of feedback on these. Of course, a lot of people are concerned. So if you have or need information about that, go there and get that. That is at the Clinton Schools Facebook page. That's how that is actually read. So anyway, let's get to some fun part. This is just what's going to happen this season, assuming that we're going to have sports. One thing about sports, the health department in St. Louis, I'll get to how this affects us here in a minute. The health department in St. Louis has recommended that all schools in St. Louis County go 100% virtual. So that is a recommendation. That is not actually what they're going to be doing. There are a lot of schools in that area that are going to go 100% virtual. Of course, as we know, Center High School, which is in the same conference that Clinton is in, is going 100% virtual. So they will not be participating in any high school sports because that's how Misha wanted it. Excuse me, got to have my coffee. So how does this affect us? Not a surprise that the health department would recommend that, we or that St. Louis County not have school or go 100% virtual. How this affects us is when we finally get to a point, if we get to a point where we can have state competitions, districts, semifinals, all that, we could potentially be competing in competitions with these schools. St. Louis County, even though it's mostly made up of St. Louis, the city, there are still some small schools in there. Plus, when you get big metro areas like this, they have influence over schools around them. So I've been keeping an eye on this, and Kansas City, it looks like they're leaning this way. It really does. For Clinton schools, this might affect them a little bit more because Center is a school that's in the conference, and they're not going to be playing. Also, the conference that Clinton is in is, well, quite frankly, Clinton is the smallest school in that conference. So when they're playing Warrensburg and Excelsior Springs, and I don't have a list here of all of them there, but they're all bigger schools, and those bigger schools probably will have a tendency to lean going 100% virtual. For Lakeland, sorry, I do that a lot. Lakeland, Montrose, Appleton City, Osceola, Wabalo, Windsor, all these schools, not so much of an effect because the smaller schools have, and I've talked about this in my other vlogs, how the smaller schools have such an advantage because they're so much smaller. The spread of this virus doesn't impact us as much. So because we're more spread out, we have less contact with people compared to in Warrensburg, where there are a lot of people that are in a smaller space. So, and then you get Excelsior Springs, same thing, and then Center. Obviously, they're in a actual metro area, so the smaller schools have that advantage. When we finally get to state competitions, there's going to be a lot of schools that would have been in those competitions that aren't going to be there. So let's say, and I'll just go into one of my predictions here, Windsor is probably going to have a really good football team this year. If we're allowed to go into state competition, you know, that will maybe be an easier run for them. I hope I'm being polite about this, but there might have been some schools that are closer to those smaller schools, closer to those metros areas that got shut down because of influence from the metro areas that they won't play, possibly. So that's one way that can affect our area. So there's that. Now, as you see, I've already kind of predicted that Windsor would do well this coming season. That's just based on kind of their past record. It looks like they've kept quite a few of their kids from what I could tell. Of course, some of the rosters haven't been released yet, so you can't really compare. But last year, Windsor was 10-3 in football. And we'll go over volleyball here in a second, because those are the main sports with the smaller schools is volleyball and football. Appleton City, now, what's going to happen with Appleton City? They went undefeated all the way through the regular season, won against Rich Hill, and then fell to Drexel. Now, one thing we do know that the quarterback for Appleton City got hurt in that, I believe it was the Rich Hill game. And then the backup had to fill in for the next game. So, and he was kind of their workhorse in that. So, Appleton City, I'm going to put a big question mark. But I will say this, they'll probably be good. They won't go undefeated again this year in the regular season. It's just a prediction. But I would say that they'll probably win 8 games. So, and this is all just going off by what we can see online. Osceola, of course, struggled last year. They were 500. And that's 8-man football. Appleton City is also 8-man football, for those who didn't know. So I have spoken to a lot of people in that school district, and I won't say their names, but it's been made pretty clear that Osceola won't be probably an awesome team this year. They'll win some games, but I could definitely see them going 500 again on that one. And of course, we come to Clinton. Now, Clinton, let's just talk about Clinton for a second. These are my opinions only, not that of the schools or anything, or any other media outlet. And Anybody involved knows Clinton's not going to be very good this year. They're just not. Brand new coach. Now that Coach LeFevre just came over from Lincoln, who took his team 2 years in a row to the state championship. Came up short on both of those games, but nevertheless was able to get this group of kids and get them to the state championship twice. So there's something to be said there. We got a good coach in Clinton now. And the problem is this. The reality is we had, years ago, we had Coach Smoot. I believe he was here for 6 years. And then Coach Lowe, and then Coach Carney. Coach Lowe and Coach Carney were both only there for 2 years. And now LeFevre's taken over. In this era of football, you have to build programs over years. And jumping head coaches like that kills that process. It just does. There's no way to get around it. It just kills that process. It's hard to be consistent. So through the last few years, there hasn't been, the kids that have played, none of them have had the same coach all the way through. And now we're going into a new coach, and I hope the Clinton School District will just sit back and let him play, because that's what we need. We need to allow Coach LeFevre to build this team. A minimum of 4 years. This switching head coaches every 2 years is horrible. It doesn't work. I'm not being critical of this Clinton School District, because I understand that it's not like they just fired these coaches. Coach Lowe retired. I guarantee you, a lot of people were very happy with him. I liked Coach Lowe. He had success. He was able to start the program and build, but he chose to retire. That's not the school district's fault. That was probably his plan. He was what we call a double dipper. He taught over in Kansas for several years, his entire career, and then came to Missouri and taught for 2 years. What that allows them to do, long story short, too late, what that allows them to do is he can retire in that state. He comes over here to Missouri and then can teach for 2 years and then qualifies for retirement here. So he gets dual retirement. A lot of teachers do this. This is something that just happens. Yeah. So, and a lot of these teachers taught for years, sacrificed a lot. I'm not complaining, but it is something that happens. So, of course, now we're on Coach LeFevre. I hope they give him 4 years. So I've spent a little more time on Clinton than I really wanted to. Let's move on to volleyball. Volleyball. Okay. So let me just get my stuff reset here. Since we're on Clinton, and I've covered Clinton sports a lot, I'll go ahead and start with them. I can definitely see Clinton volleyball team finishing the season probably a little bit above 500. They're going to be good. They've got a lot of young players that have really stepped up. I was at the volleyball camp this year, just hanging out, shooting some footage, getting ready for the season. And I can definitely say that the younger girls that are now going to be seniors and leaders on the team have definitely stepped up. So, try to get this thing set up here. Sorry, I apologize. Of course, now we can talk Lakeland. They're going to be good. In fact, I'm erring on the side of caution on that one. I really am. I think they'll be better than probably a little bit above 500. Last year in volleyball, they were 17-15-2. And a lot of their key players were actually younger players. So, we'll definitely see good things out of them. Paige, I think she is now a senior, and Morgan is a senior as well. And, of course, Brown, I think she's a junior. But anyway, those, I hate to point any of those out, but those are the names they kind of stuck out to me. So those three players definitely going to make an impact. And Mercedes, I think, watching her play, she plays with such passion. She just does. Of course, I knew kind of her family. I went to school with a lot of them. And I know they played with a lot of passion in high school. So, moving on, volleyball. Osceola, they're going to struggle this year. They lost a lot of their seniors, and this is going to be true in basketball with them because they lost Leah and a lot of the other seniors, and they're gonna struggle. Last year in volleyball, they were actually 13-19, which normally Osceola volleyball is like they usually have a really good team. So them to slump off a little bit is unusual for them, but I know they got good coaches down there, and they'll do well. Let's see here. Lakeland. Okay, moving on. Now, okay, Lakeland struggled last year, but they were 5-20, and it's just it kind of comes and goes in cycles. I know when the Carvalho girls were playing, they were very good, but kids graduate, so they're probably going to struggle again this year. So Appleton City, did I even look at Appleton City volleyball? No. Of course, Appleton City actually plays with volleyball, track, football. They actually play with Montrose. So, it does not have their. That's weird. City volleyball. It doesn't have their win loss record from last year. Click a few things here. So, hey, if you guys, there it is. If you guys see anything I missed or know things that about these teams that would be off about, comment in the section below. This is a little long of a broadcast, but I wanted to get on here and do this and just sit here and talk about sports. So Appleton City finally got it. Appleton City 12-18 last year, under 500. I really don't know anything about their team. I didn't even get an opportunity to watch them play any of the other teams that I got to see last year. So, and of course, it's difficult to make it to all the games all by myself. So a lot of my information is going off of I've seen teams play. Which comes to this year. Which teams are we going to see play? That's a good question. We're still trying to figure that one out. I have contacted several schools about covering their sports, and we're still kind of putting the schedules together. Because everything is where it is, nobody wants to commit to anything because they can't. So probably next week there'll be a lot of decisions made, and I'll have a better understanding and idea of where I'm going and where I'm allowed to go, and what schools are doing what. I know that there's been a huge push for live streaming, and quite frankly, what it comes down to, if you are at your school and you're going to help them live stream or try to do something, good luck finding equipment. we started purchasing and stocking up on our streaming equipment back about 3 months ago. And we now have 3 units that we can travel with. So the good news is we can cover 3 games in one night. Where those will be, we don't know yet. We don't know. We don't know what schools are doing what and who's committed to what. So I wish I could tell you. But we do also have a 4th system that we're still putting together that is different from the systems we currently use. Due to the nature of the beast, we wanted something that kind of a fail-safe, a backup plan for live streaming, so that we can make sure that we can cover. And basically what it is it's a system that runs off a laptop and then off of a switching device that actually can be split apart. So if we had to, we could be in 5 places at once. So that system isn't quite put together yet. I still got other equipment that's got to get ordered in, and all this is coming out of my pocket anyway. So we're in the process of getting that all put together, but we're very close. This 4th system that we're putting together is actually going to be a workhorse of a system. It's going to be built differently. It's going to have better graphics and better capabilities. It's basically the middle range version of what you would see in college sports. It's built off the same type of software is what it is. So anyway, this one went really, really long, but I had a lot that I wanted to cover. I wanted to go over some of our sports, and more importantly, I want to know what you guys think, and please communicate back what you guys think is going to happen at your own local schools. I don't know. I know that Tracy Witherspoon bothers me all the time about Windsor, and yes, Tracy, I know you watch, and I am keeping an eye on Windsor. It is one of those schools that's definitely on our radar. We would love to cover all the local schools. I mean, and that would include Calhoun and Sherwood, and I'd love to cover them all. But like I told you just a few minutes ago, we now have 4 broadcast systems that we can use. Come Friday night, we could be at 4 football games. Could be. One of the biggest problems we actually are going to run into is not equipment, because we preemptively bought early and didn't wait until now. We went ahead and predicted that we're going to go ahead and have sports, and we spent a lot of money buying this equipment months ago so that we'd be here in case this happened. So we could be there. We could be in 4 different locations. The problem is this. I have the equipment, but we don't have the people. We don't have the people. So we're in the process of training this guy that's come on board, and man, he's been awesome. Josh, his wife is actually the Main Street director as well. And he is a photographer. He's a great photographer. Does a really good job. Does weddings and events and those types of things. And he's kind of just getting started. So I reached out to him and was like, "Hey, man, let's do this video thing." He also has his own YouTube channel, Real Time. I think it's called Real Time something or other. Oh, I'm sorry, Josh. Sorry, Real Time. Anyway, check that out. He does movie reviews. Of course, right now there's not a lot of movies to review because nothing's in the theaters. But we've got this one guy. But the point that I'm getting back at to is I've got 4 machines and 3 people to run them. So if you would be interested in having your school covered and would be willing to work, now these are paid positions, be willing to work, I would be influenced on what school I would go to according to, let's say, what parents wanted to help out and learn how to run broadcast equipment. It's not difficult. It's not horribly difficult. A lot of times you just point the camera at the ball, and then running the actual production that's more of a skilled thing that you'd have to learn, but it's not too terribly difficult. So, little hint there, because I got myself, I got Josh, and I got my wife Stacy, who all can go and produce. So I've got one unit that's just sitting. At this point, I don't have any place for it to go because I don't have anybody to work. So let's say somebody wanted to cover Windsor sports. If they were running a film crew, then we would cover Windsor sports. Yes, Tracy, I'm talking about you. So anyway, went to school with Tracy Witherspoon, great guy. He's got a roofing business. So here we go. He's got kids in Windsor, and he's very passionate about his kids and posts all the time, what about Windsor? So this is about Windsor. All right, I'm getting out of here. This was really long, but that's all right. They need to be long. Check you later. James Hinkle, Sounds Like Videos.